So good morning to all of you. I welcome you to this lecture on big data analytics. This is the 12th lecture, and in this lecture we are going to discuss the eval functions, the string functions, the date functions. We'll be discussing about the pig architecture and what all is there in it, and we'll be working with the employee and the department case studies and the movie review dataset case study, and of course a few polls would be there. So let me just start the terminal. I've already started it. Let me see whether the distributed file system services are running. And let me start pig in the MapReduce mode. So we are ready to work with the functions in pig. And let's see what all is there here. Yeah, the eval functions we discussed in the previous class. The sum function, count underscore star, average, max, min, subtract, size, concat. We discussed these in the previous class. And a prerequisite for this would be to group the relation, right? And grouping can be done either on the basis of some specified column or with the all option. Okay, so let's just have a review of one of these functions before we move to the string functions. Let's load our M file. Which is located in the root of the distributed file system, and mentioning a comma separated values and mentioning some schema like mentioning the 8 columns as A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H. Yeah, we missed something, I suppose. So I'm loaded this file. Now we can watch its contents on the screen so that we can be sure that the file has been loaded. I'll just make a quick review of the eval functions before I move to some very interesting string and date functions. Okay, so we can see the M table, and let's group it on some column. Say group M by Sal. Let's do it by Sal. Or more meaningfully, we can do it by the department number. That's the last column. We took the name as X. So once I've grouped the relation X on department number, and if I dump the output, you can see that there are 4 groups: group 10, group 20, group 30, and a null group, because there are only 4 departments, 10, 20, 30, and a null department. So null is a separate group. Okay. Now we can find something out. We can find, say, we can count the number of people department wise and the maximum salary department wise. Let's calculate the number of people department wise and maximum salary department wise. So for that we can use a projection. So we can do here is group, comma, we can use a count function. I can write here X, and I can find the max salary. So for that I can write X dot F. I think F would be the salary. So I'm displaying the group along with the number of people, total number of people, and the maximum salary in the group. This is the query here. So if I dump it here, you will see the desired results. You can see in department 10 there are 2 people, 5,000 is the maximum salary, and so on. The other details are there. All right. Okay. So this was regarding the eval functions. Remember, the eval functions, or the aggregate functions as you used to call them in SQL, Basically, they are done on to generate summary information out of a group. Okay, let's continue now. Yeah, Anshul Mittal wants to ask something. Yes, Anshul, go ahead. Anshul, you can unmute yourself.
So these eval functions are case sensitive.
Yeah, all these functions would be in capitals. Yeah,
Okay.
all the functions, almost all the big functions would either be in caps, or would be like if the function contains 3 words, then each word is the first character of each word is capitalized, something like this. You need to know, how to run them,
Okay, sir.
right? So let's now move ahead and discuss the string functions. Okay, so as in my previous discussion with you, the string functions fall into many categories. For example, there would be functions returning Boolean values, that is either true or false, functions returning some strings. Okay, so basically functions doing something, returning something, functions converting something, functions testing whether something is true or false. So be careful how to use them in that scenario. So let's begin with the ends with and the starts with function. So if you need to check a string, whether it ends with a certain string, then you can use the ends with function. Okay, so it takes 2 arguments. A string, both are string. First one is the string that needs to be tested, and the second one is what it needs to be tested against. Okay, same is with the starts with. So both these functions would be returning either a true or a false value, right? So they can be used with filter. They should be used with a filter, not with a projection with for each. Okay, so I'm going to use these 2 functions for you for the same relation x. We can just describe x so that we are clear what all columns are there. And I think we should pick up some data type also, because that would be more effective since we're going to be checking it. Let's pick this B, which is our e name, as char array, and C, which is our job, also as char array, so that we are sure that we are doing the right operation. And if we describe now, we can see the data types. Okay, so let's test, let's display all the names which end with, say, H. Okay, so for that we can write this filter, say A is equal to filter x by, our name is B. Okay, so we can use the function ends with, then B, and then we can write H here. Okay, so B, so we are filtering records from the relation X, which in which the name ends with H, right? So let's dump and let's see how many records, or what records are ending with NH. So only one record is there, the name Smith is ending with NH. Okay, similarly you can try a K also for a Clark. Okay, there's a name Clark also. So let's check. This is how you can check the ends with. So it will return true or false, and all the rows with, which end with K would be filtered out. So remember, starts with and ends with needs to be used with filter, not with the for each. Again, we can use a starts with here. Say we can put an S here. So I'm now filtering all the records which start with, in which the name starts with S. So let's see how many are there. The names beginning with S. So Smith and Scott are there. So that is how you can use these ends with and starts with functions. Then another function is substring, a very interesting and a very common function used in many queries. So substring function takes 3 arguments: the original string from which you need to extract something, then a static index, and a ending index. And remember, whatever ending index we pick, it won't be included in our search. Yeah, Dimanshu wants to ask something. Yes, Dimanshu.
हेलो गुड मॉर्निंग सर।
Good morning.
सर जैसे आपने अभी बताया एंड विथ वाला,
Mm-hmm.
सपोज हमारे डेटा में अगर स्मॉल लेटर से हुआ तो
अभी हम आगे बढ़ रहे हैं, but I think you are intelligent enough to answer that we can use some conversion functions. Lower and upper are there. Okay.
बट सर अगर हमारे डेटा में दोनों हुए तो अगर सपोज किसी ने बाय मिस्टेकली अगर सपोज एक डेटा में ऊपर है कैपिटल लेटर,
Then we have a joining condition, और के साथ lower upper दोनों use कर लो. What's the problem?
ओके सर।
ठीक है, we will use it after some time. I'll be answering your question then, right? In a practical way, right?
ओके सर।
All right. So we were discussing this substring function. So I told you substring, it has a string from which we need to extract something, then a starting index and a stop index. The stop index is not included in the search. We have all the characters before, the stop index. Let's use it once. Obviously substring is going to return something, so we need a projection. Okay, we need a projection. It is returning something. So for each x, let's generate the name. Okay, and then let's use the substring function on name. Let's use 3, 7. Okay, so I'm extracting all the characters in the string b, that is a name, starting with the third index, and let's make it a 2 here. Okay, so let's dump a, and let's see the output and discuss it, so that it is more clear to us what is extracted from each one of the names. So you can see from Smith, S is at 0 index, M is at 1. So I started with 2. So 2 to, this was our query, 2 to 7. Okay. So we can just, I think, make it say a shorter one, because names are, let's make it 2 to 5. So that we can understand exactly what happens with this substring. This is the query, so you can make out now from ln, the second index is L, okay, 0, 1, 1. So you can see the output. I think you can now correlate how this substring function works. See, when I'm mentioning index 2 and index 5, then it should be the characters 2, 3, and 4. Okay. Let's pick up where, yeah, look for Turner, right? Turner, we have R, N, E. R is index 2, N is index 3, E is index 4. So index 5 is not being included. So make sure when you mention a starting and a stopping index, then the stopping index is not included. The character prior to it is displayed. That is how substring works. You'll be using this substring in many of your queries. Then we have a equals ignore case, okay, in which there are two strings. In equals ignore case, there are two strings and you compare them. Okay, it's a string comparison function, basically comparing the two strings, returning true or false, but ignores the case while comparing. Okay, let's use it in a filter, because it's returning a true or false. We can use it in a filter. We're going to use the equals ignore case function now for you. So I'm using this, say, what I can compare is, I can display the name, and then I can just compare what it contains. Equals ignore case. So I'm comparing all the names in my relation with the string Smith. Obviously, you remember there is a name Smith in the relation, but it is in all caps. Okay, so If this would be ignoring case, then the row Smith would be returned here, right? Like if it filters, if this returns are true, then one row would be returned with the name as Smith. And remember, I've written Smith in mixed case, but the matching would be done because it would ignore the case. It would consider one case, only the text would be considered. What have we missed now? Sorry. Yeah, we need to write like this. This is not a projection, right? So now let's dump it. So we are expecting one row with the value as name as Smith should be returned. Okay, so we use this query, and although our database contains the name Smith in caps, but it is matching and it's ignoring case in a match. So this is how equals ignore case works. Next is index of. So obviously index of would be returning the index of some character in the string. So we'll be looking for a character from within a string, and if it is found, it will return its index. You can also mention where to start looking for, where to start search from. Okay, so index of is having three arguments. First one is the string from where you're going to match this character. Okay, and you will mention where to start matching from. Okay, so I'm going to use this index of on say job. Okay, I'm going to use it for job so that you can understand it. Since it is we need a projection for this, right? Generate job is C, so C comma index of, I hope it's written like this. Okay, all caps, index of, then C comma, say let's look for M, the index of M in our first example, index of M, or say a better example would be A beginning from 1. Okay, let's look for this output now. So I'm looking for the index of A in each of the jobs, and I'll be searching from index 1. Okay, so let's dump it. You will be getting a lot of queries in your online test like this, so once again pay attention. So you can see the index, like for first in clerk there is no A, so whenever a search is a character is not found, then it returns -1, remember, right? In salesman you can see the index as 1. Okay, so in salesman I started looking from index 1 and A is at index 1 itself, so it is returning 1. Keep this in mind for our next query. In manager also, in analyst it is 2. It is not picking up the 0 because I'm starting from index 1. So I'm going to change this query now so that I put a 4 here and see the change in the output. Now I'll be searching for the character A in each of the jobs, but I'll be starting my search from index 4. Okay, see the output now. See, now I'm looking from in salesman, it is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'm starting from index 4. So from that way onward, the index of the position of A is 6. So it is returning 6 there. So I hope you understand what is the meaning of the third argument. That is this start index. Okay, the point from where you start locating the index of the character specified. Okay. Next is last index of. Okay, last index of. So it would be searching the last index of the given character. Okay, it will also have 3 arguments. So let's use those 3 arguments. Let's write here, or let's include it along with this. Let's use this last index of in the job itself. starting from 3. Okay, I've made this query now. I'm generating the index of and the last index of. So pay attention of the last index of and kindly understand what it does. Last index of is some other way of writing it. Last index of. Okay, let's try this. Last index of. Let's look online for this. Let's look in this file. The last index of. Let's see how it is written. It's written like this only. Or maybe we should have 2 arguments, I suppose. Yeah, we'll have 2 arguments for this, I suppose. There's no third argument. So it is, yeah, obviously it is searching from back. Okay, it is searching from back. Last index of A in job, searching from, no, still not. Yeah, so it's in caps, the words separated by an underscore and 2 arguments. One is the string and second one is the character. It will search the last index of looking backwards. Okay, here's a description of this function. Returns the index of the last occurrence of a character in a string, searching backwards from a start index. See what it means, searching backwards. So it will search for this character looking from the back. When it finds it there, whatever index is there would be counted from the beginning. Okay, let's see how. I'm going to dump A and I'm going to discuss this output with you. So it is searching backwards. Okay, see now very carefully. Look for salesman. Okay, salesman, you look for, this is the query which I have written for this, right? So I'm looking for an A, I'm going to search from backwards. So from backwards, I find A here. If I've highlighted it, can you see? I find A here. So the index of this character would be taken up from the beginning. So from beginning it is 6. I'm looking backwards, but from, I'll be counting it from the beginning. So if you've understood this concept of last index, it's important. You can give me a raised hand. If you've understood it, I'll once again discuss this with you. First, the definition. You can lower your hands now. The last index of, okay, requires 2 arguments. One is the string, second is the character whose last index we want to search. Once you have found it, okay, once you have found it, the method is searching backwards from a start index. So we'll start searching from backward. When we find the character, its index would be counted beginning from in the forward direction. Okay, so we won't say here, look here what I'm suggesting. We won't say that I have found A here, I've highlighted it, I found A here, so its index from back is 0 and 1, nothing like this. Its index would be counted from the beginning itself. Okay, let's take another example with this. Say for example, let's pick up G, the capital G here. So can somebody tell me what would be the output in the manager now? I'm looking for a G in this, I'm looking for its position. So can somebody tell me, just keep this output on the screen. Can somebody tell me what would be the position? Okay, Aditya Sharma is the first to raise hand. Yes, Aditya. Aditya, you can unmute yourself.
Sir, 4th.
Yeah, 4. Very good. So that would be 4. So let's just verify this thing, that in manager, the last index of G is 4. And you can correlate how, right? All right. Thank you, Aditya. Good answer. Let's have a quick poll now. The poll is in front of you. You've just discussed this concept. Limited time is there. Kindly keep that in mind. Another 10 seconds for you. Okay, I'm closing the poll now. Sharing the results with you. 39 students have answered correctly. It should be returns the last occurrence of the given character in the string, searching backward from the end of the string. That was easy, I think. The second option is the correct one, right? Let's see if there is some other poll for us. Okay, this was an easy one. So I'm again putting another poll for you. This is about the ceil function. I think you should be able to answer it immediately. Okay, closing the poll in the next 5 seconds now. Sharing the results with you now. 49 people have answered correctly. You see, whenever you use ceil or floor functions, okay, they'll be returning an integer value. Okay, we'll be using these today just to have a quick revision, because the arithmetic functions are similar to whatever you've learned in languages like Python and C, C++. The idea would be the same with the ceil and the floor and other arithmetic functions. Okay, so that's about these two polls. Let's now move to the next function. Next is LC first. Okay, so LC first, UC first, upper, lower. These four functions, can we have a quick answer from somebody amongst you? Somebody who can tell me what they would be doing? Abhinav Kashyap has raised hand. Yes, Abhinav. Abhinav, you can unmute yourself.
Yes, sir. Sir, LC first will change the first character of the string to the lower,
Okay.
and UC first will change the first character of the string to the upper, and upper will change the whole string to the uppercase, and lower will change the whole string to the lowercase.
One question, Abhinav, would these changes be there in the data set?
Yes, sir. When we dump it.
No, would these changes be taking place in the database?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Dimanshu, the same question for you.
No, sir.
All right. They won't be changed, right? Because
Yes,
we
sir.
are just projecting them. Only the output on the screen or the output in a separate file would be there. Our data set remains the same. It never changes. We are just projecting things out of it. All right. Thank you very much. Let's now see their working. All these four LC first, UC first, upper and lower in one query itself. So let's have a quick projection with the for each. So for each X, generate LC first, say B, the column B, UC first, B, lower. So I'm projecting the name in different ways. Okay, and let's have the original value here also. Let's generate a B here also. Okay, and if I dump this now, you can see whatever Abhinav and Dimanshu just explained, whether it's true or not. So you can see now, use LC first. See the first row, Smith is displayed, LC first, the first character is in lowercase. UC first, it's already there. Lower will put it in lowercase, and upper, it's already there in uppercase, right? These are the four functions: UC first, LC first, lower and upper. All right, I hope you have understood. So let's move ahead now. Next is the replace function. So as the name suggests, if you need to replace something from your already existing string, you can mention what you want to replace, so you must mention what needs to be replaced with what. So old char and new char, so three string arguments. One is your original string, one is your old char, and then new char, right? So let's work with these also. Let's work with the replace here. So let's replace something in our name, B. Let's use a C, so that let's replace M with a T. Okay, so manager, we can just pick up whether each M is, let's see the output first. I'm using a replace function on the third column, that is the job column, replacing M with T. Okay, let's see what it displays. So you can see in manager, in salesman, M is replaced with T. In manager, it is replaced. So everywhere, so we are generating the names also along with that. Okay, this is a replace. What I want to discuss with you is, or rather I would like to ask you, is whether it replaces all the occurrences or only one. Can somebody answer this question? Whether we don't have multiple, we can add one, maybe I can add something in the M table and check, but before that, can somebody answer? Okay, Anchal Mittal has raised the hand. Deepti Kumari. Okay, let's ask Deepti. Unmute yourself, Deepti.
So it should change all the occurrences.
It should change. Okay, let's ask Anchal.
Sir, it will change all the occurrences.
All right, so let's check. I think it should, but we should be clear about that. So let's check it. I'll just change my emp file. I'll add one more record in it. Let's put something like this. Okay, and let's put some employee number here, some date here. I can put null values also. I'll just put them, and a salary, then the commission, and then say department number. So I'll put a null in the department number. Okay, I've added one row. Okay, I've saved it. I need to transfer it to my HDFS because I'm using pig in the MapReduce mode. So fs hyphen put. This is already in the HDFS, so I'll force its entry. This is the command to put it in the root of HDFS, forcing its entry there. Okay, so it's done. We need to load it again. Where is our load statement? Yeah, here it is. Fine. So this is a load. Let's dump it to see whether we have done it properly. So you can see the last record now, and I'll again use the query to replace, right? So in the job, there are multiple M's in the job, right? So I'll replace it with this query now. I'm replacing M with a T. Okay. Let's see now. Oh, dump text. Let's see whether all the replacements are done. Yeah, so all the replacements are done. That's a good answer from Deepthi and Anchal. Let's go ahead with our next function. The string split function would, split the string into whether you mention some on basis of some regular expression. So if you mention if a string text is there and comma is the separator, if your regular expression is a comma, or on the basis of some word you can do it. Okay. So, and then the trim, L trim and R trim, you already know, will trim the spaces from beginning and end, L trim from left, R trim from right. Okay. So I just want to move ahead because time is less. I'll just be discussing some very interesting date time functions with you. And now I would definitely request you to, pick up a copy and pencil and write, those of you who are interested in real analytics, because you see date, the queries based on date are very interesting, and you can extract so many things out of a date. You will see it here. First, let's see what is the date format in Pig, and then we'll discuss all these functions. There's so many date functions you can see, okay, and then we'll discuss the math functions and then the Pig architecture. Let me show you a file first. I'm going to show you one file. Yeah. So this is how you can specify a date. I've written the full format, but the Pig date time field would make it more interesting for you. Okay. So we can have date in this format. This is a year first, then a month, then a date. We can have a date, month, year, like whatever you wish. And then you have something like a time is there. Okay, where hour is there, minute is there, seconds is there, and there will be something known as a time zone also, which will come automatically. Okay, so let's work with this function. We have this file A1. We'll be focusing for some of our date functions based on this A1 file. Okay, you need to learn something in this, something new here. Okay, let's save this file. And let's load it in a relation. Okay, I'm loading it in relation Z. Okay, I'm going to work with date time functions. For this, I've taken a sample data set in the file A1 that I just displayed. Let me display it again for you. And in this, I've just taken two fields separated by commas. One is a serial number, okay, and the second one is a date time field. Okay, the format is there, you can see. So if I load this, I've already put it in the root of the distributed file system. It's there. Since we are in a MapReduce mode, this file is already there. I've started the services also. I'll give it a schema also, say serial number, and say some date of birth. I can just write a date of birth sort of thing, and a char array. Because right now in our data set, we have not mentioned, our data set does not relate to any data type. We give it ourselves, right? So right now we can assume it as a char array. Okay, it's a character, it's a string. Okay, we'll convert it into a date first to work with the date time functions. I'll tell you how to do it. Okay, so this is my load function. Using this data set A1, in which there are two columns. One is serial number, I've taken it as int, and the second one is a date. I've taken a DOB name for it and a type as char array. Okay, so if I dump it here, the relation Z, you can see that we have some problem. You missed out something. Input part does not. Oh, okay. Something extra we mentioned. The name of the file is just A1. I'm sorry. Okay, it's just A1, no extension. Okay, and let's dump it now to see what this contains. It will display all the 6 records from my data set containing the serial number and the date. Okay, so you can see now the first date is 26 September 1989. 9 AM is the time. Okay, we are working in a 24-hour format. We are assuming that we'll be working in a 24-hour format because right now it's just a character string, the second field. Okay, so let's see the first function now. Okay, that is how to convert this char array into a date field. Okay, so for that you can see there is a toDate function, but it says milliseconds as the argument. Okay, so this toDate function, this has got many variations. It's a sort of an overloaded function in Apache Pig. So just to show you all the variations here. Okay, this could be any one of the following. Okay, so I'll be using this one with you. This is easier to use. Okay, you can look for others also, but this one would be in which we'll be picking up the toDate function with a string, and we'll be specifying a format on our own, in which like it would be converted, the string would be converted into a date field using the format which I specify, and it will automatically pick up the time zone. Otherwise, if you need to mention a time zone on your own, then you can specify a time zone also. Okay, so I'll be using this. Kindly note, all of you, I'll be using this in all my queries with some of the date functions. Okay, so let's do it. I'm going to now write it here for you. Our relation is Z, so I can use say D1 is equal to, say, from Z I'll project, so for each Z generate, just missed it, toDate, then I mentioned the field as DOB. I want to convert this DOB field into a date field based on this format. So remember our dates like were year was first. Okay, so how to mention it here, just see. Let's see whether if there is some problem in this. We are using a slash, I suppose. Then an HH, MM, SS. Let us give it some name. So I'm written for each Z generate, convert this DOB. I'll be taking up a new relation D1, in which from my Z relation, I'll convert the DOB into a date. And it is in this format. Like, so see, because MM is there in time also. So the month is always given in caps. MM is month is in caps, and MM in minutes is given as in lowercase. Okay. If I dump it now, I'm going to dump D1, right? So see the output now, whether it is there, whether the time zone is picked up automatically or not. Okay, so I've projected this, the character string has been converted into a date time field. The first part is a date. Then the time is, preceded by a T, okay. Then the time is there, HHR, MM, SS. SS is to, precision is to the nearest 1000, you can see, so much precision is there, 00.000. And then we are in India, so it is a plus 5.5 hours ahead of GMT, so plus 05:30. If you would have in some other place, that accordingly the time zone would have come there. So have a quick look again how to convert it, very important, because this would be the first step in doing all the date queries, converting our suggested char array, which is a date, to convert it into a date field. You can use, so you can specify any format. Maybe you can have, if your data set is having a date first, so you can write here dd/mm/ something like that. Like, so don't be worried if this is not a fixed format. So this dd/mm/yy can be interchanged. Okay, so if you've understood this first step, kindly raise your hands, all of you. All right, I hope that the raising of hands is just not an exercise. You are understanding the things. All right, thank you. You can lower your hands now. So this is the first step has been done. So in our relation D1, we have the date field. Okay, So now I can work with the certain functions now, so that it is clear, you know. So the first one is current time. Okay, the first one is current time. So let's display the current time. How to do display the current time? You can display serial number also, and you can display DOB also. So now I'm displaying all the four things. Two original things from my relation Z, right? Relation Z is SNO and DOB, okay? And then two more projections. So I can give them the name also, okay? I can give it some name also as DT, okay? And current time as, yeah, no need to give this, okay? Yeah, some problem. DT we have already given, I think. Okay. Let's change this. Yeah. Okay. So now see the output here. Once again, important concept. Yeah, Ankit wants to ask something. Yes, Ankit, go ahead. Ankit 188, you can ask your question. No, you just raise hand just by chance, right? Okay, fine. So some of your queries in the exam would be based on date time, and you can answer only when you've worked with them. No online help would be there for this. Remember, I'm suggesting this thing very clearly to you. Whatever would be there in the online exam of big data has been generated in a sense, that it won't be available on the net. I can promise you that. Okay. So the only thing is to learn. So I'm dumping D1, I'm projecting the two columns, then I'm projecting the column DOB converted into a date in this format, and with the name as DTT and the current time. See how it displays this, all these things. See now, look very carefully. The first two columns are there, the serial number and the date, which is in a char array. Then we have a, see, automatically the slash has been replaced by a hyphen. The default character in date is hyphen. Okay, can you see the slash from your string has been automatically replaced by a hyphen? And then the time zone is there. And then you can see the current time. So we generated this output at 10:29. And obviously the time zone, the current time also will give you the time zone automatically. All the date functions, when you display something with them, they'll be displaying the date along with the time and the time zone automatically. Okay. This was the query we just used, generating the current time. All right. So next is get day. Okay, so returns the day of a month from the date time object, get day. I'll be going slow with these because so that you don't need to memorize them once they are in front of you in any challenge, some query, some exam. You should be able to pick it up automatically. Get day. So the best way to learn its working is to see the outputs. So get day. I'll be using each one of them for you. Okay. So I'll just add here okay, can somebody suggest me how to write it now? I think that's a very relevant question. Suggest how to write this query. I want to display the get day. Okay. I'll just make it like this. I'll just write this query. I want to use the get day now. From my data set, I want to get the days. For example, for the first row, it should be 26. For the next, it should be 20 and so on. How to do it? No idea? Okay. I'll do it for you. I'll take some relation here as say Q is equal to. Now the further, I cannot project directly on Z to begin with, because in Z the DOB is in char array, and in the relation D1 now I've converted my DOB into a date with the alias as DTT. So I would write here for each D1 generate, I'm saying get day, then DTT, okay. Let me write a DOB here, okay. Have you understood what I have done just now? This is important, that's why I'm asking. Two questions I'm going to ask you. I have written the get day to extract the day out of a date using two queries. First, projecting Z into a relation D1 and then projecting D1 into a relation Q. So first of all, whether it will give the answer, yes or no. And secondly, can I do it using one query? That is, these are the two questions for you. So you can just think them over and answer back to me. Yeah, please respond. Whether this will work, this will give the desired answer to us. And the second one, whether I can make, instead of these two queries, I can write just one query. If you're not able to answer this, I can just presume that you're not thinking. It's very easy. So let's first see by dumping Q whether we get the answer or not. And then I'll again display these two queries in front of you, right? See, we have got DOB, okay. See, we have got the DOB. I could have, done this also so that it is more clear. It is DTT. I'm just telling you how to use what for each means, because I think even now some of you are not clear about what for each does. I hope this discussion on these queries would help you, get yourself better acquainted with for each. So I'll be displaying DOB, then it's converted date, and then the get day. I'll get the day out of it. See now, the first one, the first value in the tuple is my char array DOB, right? Then it's converted date time field, and then from that I'm getting day. The get day function will pick up the DD part out of it. You can see. Okay, this was the first thing, that whether it works or not. Now the interesting thing here is, look at all of these. I have a relation Z, okay? And when I project it into a relation D1, then whatever columns are there in Z are also a part of D1 automatically, okay? And any additional projections also, like in case this DTT, that also becomes a part of it. So let me describe D1 for you so that you can understand it better. See, D1 has now 3 columns. Our original relation Z had 2 columns. D1 has 3 because we projected the 3. We projected Z. See, I projected. See, I'm not generating serial number here. Can you see? Important, that's why I'm discussing. I'm not generating any serial number. The generate is just displaying the things on the screen, okay? Projecting and displaying for each and generate. But once you project from a relation and get into a new relation, then you get all the columns of the original relation that you are projecting. And when I use Q, okay, from D1, so it is generating DOB, it's there, it is generating DTT, it's there, and then an additional, this is generating is a get day. So let's see whether what's there in describe for Q. How many columns are there? See, it is there, DOB is there, DTT is there, and it is telling, because you have not given any name to the third one in your queue. See, have you've given any name here? See, no. So you can give a name here as, say, day, okay? And if you describe now, you can see day, and it is picked up because the get day function returns an int, so the data type automatically becomes int. This is important for you to learn. For each is a very, very strong operator. It will help you to do most of the queries, whatever analytics you are doing, you would be easily able to do it with for each. The functions obviously are there for your support, but how to use for each with it, that is the challenge. Now, I need to list the queries again. This is the one of the queries, and before this I used this. So first I converted from Z, I converted DOB into a date, and then I used that D1 in my here in Q to generate further. My question was, can I use one query instead of these two? That is projecting Z into D1 first and then D1 into Q. Yeah, please answer this question. All of you are in 5th semester. This is a very easy question for you. It's not related with pig only, it's with your programming capabilities. Whether I can use, I'm asking you, this is one query. Okay, look, have a look at it. This is another query. Can I use one query instead of these two? Yes or no is the first, and how to do it, please answer. See, you are passing DTT as an argument to get day. Okay, so what you can do is you just pass this. This is a DTT, no? So just write here get day. That's it. क्या प्रॉब्लम है? Okay, got it now. Have a good look at it. You want to get day, so you cannot write simply DOB here because DOB is in char array. So you use a toDate function. So this toDate will convert this into a date, and this get day will extract the day out of it. So this is the same like what you did. So if you dump D1 now, you will get the same output. I'm not happy that none of you have answered this. This was very simple. See, the same thing has come as an output again. Understood? You can raise your hands now if you've understood. If you've understood this concept, you can raise hands. All right. You can lower your hands now. I want to ask one question from somebody. Let me just pick up one person, because I'm not happy, you're not answering. I'll pick up some good persons. Yeah. Unmute yourself, Gursevak. Roll number 224. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Gursevak, why were you not able to answer this question?
Yes, sir.
आप ये आंसर क्यों नहीं दे पाए? Are you listening to the class और ऐसे मोबाइल ऑन करके रखा हुआ है?
नहीं सर, लिसन कर रहा हूँ.
तो फिर आपने इसका आंसर ही नहीं दिया. ये तो सिंपल था. आप you're a programmer, you should be, I just asked you, instead of these two steps, can we use one step? You should have answered this.
Yes, sir.
You were aware of this? आता था आपको ये?
Yes, sir.
आंसर क्यों नहीं किया?
सर वो थोड़ा सा ना कंफ्यूज हो गया था.
अच्छा, चलो ठीक है. पे अटेंशन, ठीक है? ये इंटरेस्टिंग काम है, आपको आगे यूज करना है. So just all right. So I hope you've understood this. Now we can use, with this this as a format, we can use whatever functions we want to use. Let's check a few other functions. You see, get hour is there, get millisecond is there, get minute is there. So it will just pick up these things out of the given date that you specify. So I'll be using some of them in the queries. So it's get hour, get millisecond, get minute. Let's see. Let's use all of them. I think what easier way would be for us to generate a script. Let's pick it up from here. Let's copy it. Let's open a file, a script file. Okay, just paste it here. So for each this, let us give it names also. Day is equal to for each Z, this. Now let's copy it. Minute. So we can use a get minute here. Okay, get minute function. It will pick up the minute out of it. Then get. I hope you're using the correct. We'll just check the spellings. So minute. Then we can put here milli. Okay. Let's use here second. Okay, these are the things. Let me just cross check with their milli is okay, no E is there. Second is there, right? So milli, no E is there. Okay, let's just correct that. No E is there. I think we are good now. Okay. Remember the names: day, minute, millisec, right? So let me save it and close it. Then run it. Notice the problem. No semicolons. Yeah, no semicolons. So once again, save. See the run command. You see, so many things are revised here. When I use the run command, all the commands are a part of the history. So it is executed day, minute, milli. It has run all, right? So let's run it again. So it has executed all the commands you can see on screen: day, minute, millisec. Now let's dump these out. So let's dump the millisec part here. Okay. You can see the millisecond out of your given date. So you can see the milliseconds is 0, so all zeros are coming here. Let's see this seconds part. There is some seconds value, or again it's a 0, I suppose. Okay, the last one is 44 seconds. Two of the entries you can see. Okay, the sec part. Okay, let's see the minute part now. Okay, so you can see the minutes. Similarly, you can have a hour also. Okay, so we can put an hour also. So I can use a get hour. Can save it, and once again we can run D1, and I can dump R. See now what sort of queries would be there? So we could be saying, like in a data set, like how many people purchased. One query could be, if we have a data set related to some shopping mart, we could have a query like how many people purchased items between 7 p.m. and 9 p.m. Okay, so there you'll be using this get R. We'll get R 19 and get R 21. Okay, that is between 7 p.m. and 9 p.m. So you'll be filtering out the records from there. So queries like this you would be using, right? Let's see some other functions, some different ones. Same as this, you can have a good look at all these functions. Get week. I'll share this file with you so you can have a good look at it. Here the description is there. Okay, and then if you click on this link, it will take you to the online resource. There's a lot of help on this. So there are functions now, like look at these functions now: days between, hours between, milliseconds between. So you can compare two dates also. Okay, so for that I have picked up another data set for you. Have a look at it, which is having two dates. Can you see a serial number, one date and then another date? Okay, so last one I put exactly almost the same so that we can pick up things from here. Okay, let's make a few changes in it. We can use all the functions, right? So it is 21. See, the format also have changed, right? For your this thing. Isko 11 kar dete hain. Yeah, that's good, I suppose. So we have 19th December, and or let's make it a 10 here. Have a look at this data set. I will be doing the date comparison functions with this data set, name as A2. Okay, the idea would be the same: first to convert it into a date time, and then use the various functions. All right, I'll be using them now. I've changed this file, so I'll just put it again into the HDFS, fs-put -force a2 to root. Yeah, it is the updated file 21.19.10, right? So let's load it. I hope all of you are listening to me and noting down all the things. Dimanshu's raising hand. Okay. Yes, Dimanshu.
सर क्या हम चेक कर सकते हैं या ईयर लीप है या फिर ऐसे?
वो तो see, leap year is just by your code. There is no such function for it. You can make your own function and check it. What's the problem? You just
सर
need to
ऐसे
check. Yeah.
डायरेक्ट फंक्शंस नहीं ऐसे?
ऐसा फंक्शन C++ में देखा आपने कोई?
नहीं सर.
जावा में?
नहीं सर.
पाइथन में?
नो सर.
खुद ही कोड किया था ना?
यस सर.
तो यहाँ पे तो ये तो यू आर स्टडिंग एनालिटिक्स, यार तो सब कुछ ही खुद करना है, फिर भी देखो कितनी हेल्प है फंक्शंस में.
सर तो फिर कैसे करेंगे वो? अगर सपोज अगर कोई 4-5 साल या 10 साल का रिकॉर्ड है तो उसमें से निकालना है सिर्फ लीप ईयर के तो
तो आपको नेस्ट करना पड़ेगा अपना लीप ईयर फंक्शन और उसके अंदर जो आपकी कंपैरेटिव डेट्स है. ये आप सोचो ना, दिस इज सो सिंपल. दिस इज नॉट एग्जैक्टली अ बिग डेटा एनालिटिक्स क्वेरी. दिस इज सिंपल लॉजिक कि लीप ईयर कैसे करना है एंड व्हाट यू वांट टू डू, वेदर यू वांट टू फाइंड फॉर अ रेंज, यू कैन यूज दैट. अब लूप नहीं है यहाँ पर पिग में, सो यू नीड सम फ्लो. थिंक ऑफ दैट फ्लो.
ओके सर.
All right, you do it. This is a good thing that you've asked. Now you try it, and once you know the answer, you can share with us.
ओके सर.
It is possible, right? So you can do it. You need to think a little bit about it because working with Apache Pig is different as compared to your traditional programming languages, right? But you can do it.
यस.
All right. So understood now. I have taken a data set which contains 3 columns. One is a serial number, one is some date, second one is a date, but we'll be taking it up as a char only in the beginning while we are loading. Okay, I'm loading this data set now. The comma separated as, again let's give it a name, serial number int comma d1 char array comma d2 char array. Okay, that is the first step that we do. Did some mistake here. Yeah, the spellings. Okay, so let's dump it to see whether we are on track. So we have loaded the file having 2 dates, but the dates are currently in char form, in char array, right? So you loaded it, you can see it. Let's now convert it into a date. For our discussions, I'm going in 3 steps. First, the original relation, then the relation converted from char array to date, the fields, and then the various functions. We'll keep it simple, but you can do it in 2 also. Let's locate our toDate function. Okay, so our relation is D, and let's load it as P. P is equal to for each D generate serial number. Then we have D1. Let's generate all D1, D2, and then toDate. D1. What should be the format here? You can see on we have the day first, so it should be DD capital MM like this. See the change that I've done. No problems. DD MM YY, right? As कुछ नाम दे दें इसको, as DTT कर देते हैं, ठीक है, या DT1 कर देते हैं. And then again to repeat the same with the other date, toDate D2 MM. See the amount of work I am doing here just to explain it to you. You need to do the same while you are explaining or revising it. Then it would be permanent, right? DDMM this. Then we have got HH:MM:SS. Let's close this as DT2. See now if there is some mistake or everything is fine. You didn't end something. Yeah, we didn't close the quotes. Okay. I asked you, nobody replied, right? Wapas. So let's load pig again. So we have the grunt shell here. So we needed to close this here. We missed this here. Now everything fine, I suppose. D is not active. Okay. Load this. Now D is active. For each D, yeah. Shit. Some problem again. All right. Problems do occur while you are doing work, you know. So let's load the relation D first and then load the correct query with the quotes closed. Yeah, this is the one. Yeah, now it's okay. Let's dump P. Okay, so we have a relation in which there are 3 columns: serial number, date 1 and date 2. So I'm displaying all the 5 things: serial number, D1 and D2 in char form, D1 and D2 in converted corresponding dates with aliases as DT1 and DT2. So you can see the output now, and then we'll work with the comparative date functions. Good enough. We can see now the dates have been converted. Now it's an easier task for us to project the things that we want in shape of functions. So let's look for one thing is left, add duration. That's very interesting. That we'll do the last thing in these functions. So let's use these days between and hours between. Okay, days between and hours between to check, and then we'll go with this add duration. Okay, days between and. So we have a relation Q. What was this? P. Okay, so let's pick up Q is equal to, for each P, generate hours between. So you would prompt with an answer now. Okay, I'll see whether you can answer this. Hours between and days between. The dates are there in front of you. Okay, you need to answer to this question. Hours between D1, D2 and days between D1 and D2. Okay, let's pick up. No, it's not D1, it's DT1. DT1 and DT2. And let's display them also, DT1 comma DT2. These are the dates. A semicolon is required. Okay, so what would be the answer here? Somebody to raise hands. Yeah, waiting. You can take your time. You can take some 10-15 seconds to pick up the dates are there in front of you. I'm picking up the hours between and the days between. And you can look for the third because the other two would give very big values. There's a lot of hours between them and days between them. Use the third query. That's why I put it in that format. I put the dates very close and the time very close. So just pick up your answer, please. And you can raise your hands to answer. Waiting for your answers. Shall we give a chance to Pig? Okay, let's take the help of Pig. I would have loved an answer from your side, but you people are not willing actually. Is it that difficult? You can see hours between DT1 and DT2, date 1 and date 2. What's the problem? Okay, now somebody is answering. Aditya. Aditya, please answer.
It will return the hours between DT1 and DT2.
Yeah, that's what I'm asking you for an answer. Okay, Anchal Mittal wants to answer. Yes, Anchal.
Sir, in first it will return null value because there is no difference between them. There is also a 9R and in DT2 there is also 9R.
You're not looking properly, Anchal. I'm sorry. Look clearly. You're not looking clearly. There's a clear distinction. There's a 3 in the first date and there is a 9 in the second date. How are you picking up both as 9? Look after T, it's 3/11/44. Look after T, it's 9/11/00. So R is 3 minus 9. 6 hours difference is there. And it should be dt1 minus dt2. So minus 6 should be the answer. Okay. And what else? Days you can see. It is 19th October. You can count the days. It will do it for us. So let's check it. It will give the hours and the, look for the third row, right? The first one would give big values. There's some. Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, hours between days is fine. Hours obviously is because we changed the dates. I changed the month from 11 to 10. Na? So there are so many hours between 19th October, 3 o'clock and between. So I can just change the data set a bit. Otherwise, so it is going like dt2 minus dt1. Okay. One thing we make it clear from here that this first, this dt2 minus dt1 is returned. Okay. So now we must put the first one here. This will give us the correct answer here, the positive ones. I'll change the data so that it's clear to you how it works. Okay. So in the two dates, the last one, serial number 3, there are 797 hours and there are 33 days. So that's fine. 19th October, right? So from that 13 days there and 21. But did we give the, I don't think we are using the correct data set of, are we? Why the dates are, what was the format for date? Just let me just check. We did this for P. Let's first dump P because we are not getting the answer as per our wish. Dump P. Should be in DDMM YYYY format first of all. Yeah, this is fine. Let's see what we wrote for Q. For each P generate dt1 comma dt2 hours between this. Yeah, let's see now how it responds. And let's dump Q. We'll change the values just to make sure, but let's first check this. Yeah, it's changed the format automatically. So you see one more thing we see here. Then when it is converted to a date, like we are suggesting a format, but the output is displayed, the output display format is fixed. That is YY, MM and DD. Take that, okay? And obviously we have 33 days. You can see how 33 days come, 13 from October and 21. So it is doing some mathematics. So whatever best value it thinks, it picks up. So there are 32 to 33 days. So it is giving that. Okay. You can just check how it gives that. Okay. How it rounds up, or maybe it could have been 32 if some lesser time would have been given. Otherwise, if we include 21 also, 21 days of November and 13 days, so it should be 34, but it is giving 33. So some maths arithmetic would be there, I suppose, right? So remember the display format would be always YY hyphen MM hyphen DD. You can use any format to convert if your data set is in one specific format, but when it displays like this, all right? Okay. So you can check all these other functions. I'll focus on this add duration now. First, I'll discuss it with you, right? So if you just want to play around with your, dates, so there is a, there is add duration function which requires a date field and a duration field. Okay, And this duration field is there in your data set itself. This is usually represented in an ISO 8601 standard, okay, in which a P is placed at the beginning. Listen very carefully. In which a P is placed at the beginning, which represents the duration, and it is called as duration designator. It is called as the duration designator. And then for year, Y is there. So if you write P1Y, it represents 1 year. Okay, P1Y represents 1 year. P1M represents 1 month. Okay, and so on. So we have designators for all, for year, for month, for week, for day. Okay, and then T is the time designator. Okay, P is the your duration designator, T is the time designator, H is the hour designator. Like all these things are there. Okay, for example, now we'll have a data set in which we'll have some serial number, some date, and then some duration parameter is also there. So PT1M. Okay, so PT1M means a time of 1 minute. P1Y is 1 year. Okay, fine. So here what we have done it, first look at this example and then I'll explain my own example. We just load this data set into some file, into some relation, date underscore duration. Okay, and then we use this, we convert it into a date using a toDate, and we give add duration and then the duration. Duration we have taken here, this column. This is the duration in the load, you can see. Okay, so you pass this and the date to add duration. Okay, see what it does. Look at the date here. Okay, this is PT1M, so it is 1 minute. Okay, so in your date, original date is 26 September 1989. Time is 9. Okay, so when you add duration, this 1 minute is added. So what is returned is 901. You can see here. Can you see here 901? That is what it means. So you can add duration. Okay, so here you are adding 1 year. Okay, 1 year. P1Y is 1 year. P3M is 3 minutes or months. Let's check. 311, 19, 3. Yeah, 3 months. Okay, how does it differentiate between? How does it differentiate between 3M? Let's see the alphabet here. M is the minute designator. PT1M represents 1 minute. Let's see the month. Okay, so PT1M is a 1 minute. The T comes there. And if you write P1M, that is 1 month. Okay, all right. So you can just check how it works. I have made a small file for you. I'll just open that file for you. Okay, so we have taken some example from there itself. Okay, PT1M, P1. So PT1M is a time of duration is a time of 1 minute. Okay, P stands for duration, T for time. So if you add this duration, this is the duration part. So if you can add this or subtract this from your given date. Okay, fine. So let's work with it. Let's close it first from here. Let's see whether we have got some script so that we can save time. Yeah, so for each B, okay, we need to go through all this. All right. We still have some time. Yes, we can do it. Let's do it on our own. So let's load this file A3 first. See, I'm going to explain these categories of functions to you now. Okay, the add duration and the subtract duration. Okay, so what they does, they return the result of a date time object along with the duration object. Okay, so in your data set, you can have a duration object also. Okay, so this is automatically in some specific data sets. So if such data set is there, you can use this add duration and subtract duration functions from here, from your date functions. So I'm going to load this A3 file into some relation, say W is equal to load. This one is also, I suppose, in the let's suppose it's there. We'll check pick storage as. So we have a serial number with an int. Then we have say D1 as a char array, comma, a duration as a char array. Okay, so this is our relation Z, which is loading this data set A3 with the three column names as serial number, D1 and duration, DUR, right? So let's dump to see whether we have, successfully loaded this file. Yeah, so this is our data set. You can see there is a date, the duration is there. PT1M is a time of 1 minute, P1Y is 1 year time, P3M is 3 months. So if I use a add duration to this, so these things would be added to our date. So the next step would be to convert it into a date. So that you already know how to do it. Let's pick it up from somewhere. Yeah, this we can do. So we have a relation W. For each W, you can pick up some K here. Serial number, we took D1 and DUR, okay. And then we converted D1 into, it's in what? Y format. So we have DD as DT1. Let's dump K. Okay, now W is my original relation which contains a date and a duration as char, and K is a converted one in which I converted D1, the date, into a date type, and I'll be adding this duration to it. Okay, so I'm dumping K to see whether all is good with our dates. Let's hope it's good. Yeah, we can see now, right? What did we dumped K, okay. Can you see now? K contains 4 columns, first 3 from your original relation, int, char, and the last one is a date, okay. Now let's use this add duration, which I have done it in my, this script here. Just need to change the relation names for each. K should be here. The rest, everything is good. I'm generating D1 and duration, the date and the duration, and using add duration, okay. This we used as an alias, so I can just use it here, DT1, I suppose. Okay, I'm saving it. I'll show you what I have done. Or instead of confusing you, I can just copy it from here, okay, and paste it here. Yeah, okay. So what should you expect as an answer now? For every date, for the first one, the duration is PT1M, that is 1 minute. So it would be 901. Then 1 year would make the year as, let's see what date it gives, how it calculates here, right? I'm going to dump R now. See how the duration is added. Okay, it's 901, and then the date is, year is 26/1980, so it is 26/1981, and the last one is 3 months, so it is 19th December, and then it's 19th March. Okay, the same would be there with the subtract one also. Okay, I hope you've understood these date time functions. Interesting, and remember your data sets, they are always going to contain a date, and especially if this is a good data set, the time zones would also be there. So this big date time data type would help you in a long way, because it contains so many date time functions that you can practically extract anything out of your date. Okay, anything, millisecond, whatever detail you wish, you can. And you can add, while you're doing projections, for your company or for your organization, that what will, what would be the scenario after 3 months. So here, we'll be using this add durations, or what was the scenario some 6 years back, something like this. So there you use this add duration and subtract duration things. Okay, so this is regarding the functions. Let's have a quick look at the math functions, which I agree, you will agree with me that you know most of them, right? You've used in any language, so you can see the ceil, the floor, cos, exp, floor, log. You can just go through them. You should go through them because they would be asked in the examination. I'm not spending too much time on it because I hope that you already know them, right? So let's now move to the next part of our lecture. What was that after this? Let's check this out. Yeah. So we have the pig architecture now. Okay. Let's now just discuss what is a pig architecture. I deliberately took this topic to the end because, it's a theoretical thing, pig architecture. Okay. And something, which is happening in the background, you can just read about it. You cannot comment about it much, right? So I'll now just pick up this pig architecture with you. Okay. Let's have a quick look at the architecture. You need to discuss all the things with me. Okay, so have a look at pig architecture now. Okay, so internally Apache Pig converts your scripts, that is whatever programming you expect out of your data sets, whatever queries. So we discussed this before also, that it is internally it is converted into a series of map reduce jobs. Okay, and you are not aware how it is doing it, but the job is being done. You just write a front end short query in pig using a pig operator and you get the result, but internally it is being converted into MapReduce, a series of MapReduce jobs, and you're getting the answer. Look at the pig architecture now. You can take a screenshot of this. This is the architecture of pig. Okay, so here you are with the pig Latin scripts. Okay, and then you, through the grunt shell, you give it to the pig server. Now, what are the things which are involved for when the scripts are being executed? There is a parser, there is an optimizer, there is a compiler, there is an execution engine. Okay, all these convert your pig script into MapReduce jobs. Okay, and then the MapReduce jobs, they pick up they use HDFS to generate the output and store the output in the HDFS. Okay, let's read out all of these things now. Okay, what parser does, important, you can just note down the key things out of it. Okay, because some questions would be asked from this part also, but since it would be a MCQ type, so you need to know what actually each of these things do. So when we talk of parser, okay, the initial the pig scripts, initially they are handled by the parser. What it does, it checks the syntax of the script. So while you are writing, if you are missing a semicolon, if you are writing load as LAOD like we did, so we made all the errors. So that is a syntax error. So the parser is responsible for checking all the syntax error, the type checking, okay, and other miscellaneous checks. Now, if you have written a function name incorrectly, okay, or if you have written a function with incorrect number of arguments, then this parser is taking care of that. Once everything is done, parser is satisfied, then it gives the output. Parser gives the output as a directed acyclic graph, which represents the pig Latin statements and logical operators. Okay, and the logical operators in your DAG, directed acyclic graph, they are represented as the nodes, and the data flows are represented as edges. Okay, now this DAG is passed to the logical optimizer, which carries out the logical optimization such as projection and push down. Now this is what is available in pig documentation, right? If you need to further study what is the projection and push down, you can maybe go to the this Apache site and you can check, but I don't think it's required for you because you're not going to see it working actually. Okay, so the DAG is passed to the logical optimizer. It does two things. It does projection and push down, and then your optimized logical plan is now then converted into a series of MapReduce jobs by your compiler. Okay, and then the execution engine, these jobs are submitted to the HDFS or the Hadoop in a sorted order, and these are executed and the desired results are produced. Okay, small this architecture, it does a lot of things internally, but these are the key things which are there occurring in there. This diagram is important. Okay, and the explanations, each one of them, parser, optimizer, compiler, each one of them is important. Have a good look at it again. Parser will be checking your syntax type checking and other miscellaneous checks. Whatever checks needs to be done before your script is to be converted into a DAG. Everything is in order, only then it is converted into a DAG, and your DAG represents, you know, the logical operators as nodes and the data flows as edges. And your optimizer, it carries out projection and push down. Compiler is going to convert your optimized logical plan into a series of map reduce jobs, and your execution engine is responsible for executing the map reduce jobs, and the results are there in the HDFS. Okay, fine. So let's now have some question answer session sort of thing. Okay, easy question. Yeah, please answer. The poll is in front of you. I'll give you just 20 seconds for this, 20 to 25 seconds. Closing in 10 seconds now. 5 seconds. Closing the poll now. Sharing the results with you. So we just learned that parser in pig checks the script, does type checking, and does all other miscellaneous checks. So the correct answer is all of the above. And 32 people have answered correctly. That's good. The next one now. This is easier than the previous one, I suppose. Closing in 5 seconds. It's an easy question, so let's not take too much time on this. Sharing the results with you. The answer is both A and B. We just learned. It's there on the screen, I think. Right now it's there on the screen. If you would have been careful. The logical plan is passed to the optimizer, which carries out the logical optimization such as projection and push down. The answer is there on the screen. Still only 70% have answered correctly. So this is regarding the polls today. Okay. Let's now move ahead. Any questions you can please ask? If there are any questions? No questions. I know all of you are very intelligent. I hope that you do your final test very nicely. I'm going to look for people who score over 75% in that. So let's have a quick look at the movie review case study. Yeah, I've already shared this movie review and the AMP and the department. You know, I've shared this. Today I'll share this also, what you need to do. Okay, so this is your movie review case study. Okay, and there's the serial number, the name of the movie, the year in which movie was released, its rating out of 5, and its duration in seconds. Okay, this was regarding the movies data set. Now you need to write the queries for this. So let's pick up some people who can just join me in answering these queries. The first 4 I'll do. Okay, so let's see. See here also the year, it's such an easy thing. Here you can pick up this year. There's no date in this. So when you pick up a data set of, you know, part B that you're going to do, you must pick up a date, you know, full-fledged date in it, like the ones we have did today. There should be a date component in there. If it is not there, then I won't be picking it up as a good case study. Okay, so you need to do this case study. I'll share it with you today. All right. Then another one of the, I'm not going to ask you now because you are already tired with the long class. Here is the employees case study. This also I'll share with you. If I've not done it already, I don't know. This I'll share with you. Okay. So you must finish these case studies on your own. It would help you a lot in revising the entire, whatever things we have learned in PIG and in HDFS. It would be a good way to learn that. So let's ask if there is some problems that we can discuss. Any questions from your side? Anything that comes to your mind? Are all of you happy with the way this class is being conducted? The way that you are receiving assignments, कोई उसमें problem तो नहीं है? You can raise your hands if there is some problem. You can put out, you can just put your problem here in the group so that we can discuss. I'm trying to give you ample time to write your assignments, to write your machine exercises. I'm not challenging also कि आप copy कर रहे हो कि नहीं कर रहे हो. But the idea is that you should write or you should learn these things in one way or the other. And obviously we need some mechanism to evaluate you. Okay. So make sure that your assignments and your lab exercises and your part B of lab, they reach me in time. I'm giving you a lot of instructions regarding that. Okay. If you're not picking it up, it's not my fault, please. But we are sure of one thing: if you don't follow my instructions, then I'm not bound to, check your, locate for your files and check them or wait for 10 days or 15 days. I'm not going to do like that. Once I close this assignment 1 and 2 dates, after that, whatever I receive is not evaluated. So it's a request, kindly do things in time. You've got plenty of time with you. Okay, only a 2-hour class on a daily basis. And we are not pushing you too much. We are giving you ample time. Okay, so please work properly. And if you don't have any questions now, I'll close this class. Okay, and with a reminder that submit, if somebody is left with assignment 2 and ME 5 and 6, submit it before 5 p.m. today, please. Thank you. I'm going to end this class now.